Hello everyone, my name is Noel Watson. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us for this QlickiT webinar, which is entitled Genius with Sense. So just a bit of housekeeping first. We're going to keep everyone muted for the duration of the seminar, but do feel free to pop your questions in the chat box, and one of my colleagues will be monitoring that and will respond to any that he can do during the course of the seminar, or alternatively we'll also have an option for Q&A at the end where we can look at that. So I'm just about to share my screen now. So as I mentioned, today's webinar is entitled Genius with Sense. So the purpose of this seminar is intended to demonstrate just a few of the powerful and yet simple features available in Sense. This presentation is aimed at those who are new to Sense, along with those who may have worked with it previously but might be unaware of some of the new feature developments and integrations that have become available since it was launched about 18 months ago. For the purposes of the demonstration, we're going to focus on a case study looking at a fictitious retail chain with 100 branches across the UK and Ireland. So the purpose of that, we're going to look at 3 use cases which will show us the versatility and capabilities of the platform, including the simple way in which online and offline data can be integrated and presented in a unified way. So before we get started on that, we'll probably just have a quick look at what Sense is. So Qlik Sense is one of the BI products out in the marketplace, one amongst many. The quick pitch from Qlik as to what Qlik Sense is goes along the lines of: Qlik Sense is a next-generation visual analytics platform that empowers everyone to see the whole story that lives within their data. It supports a full spectrum of BI use cases, including self-service visualization for everyone, centrally deployed guided analytic apps and dashboards, embedded analytics and reporting, all within a governed framework that offers enterprise scalability for IT trust. So that's quite wordy. What are they actually trying to sell us there? So next generation means that this product is genuinely device and platform agnostic, i.e. it works equally as well on any platform. It works well on any modern browser device by adapting to the strengths of that browser. That means it will automatically resize and reposition or reorientate the screen objects based on screen real estate available. It's highly intuitive. It takes very little introduction, let alone training. And people can get up to Sense within a couple of minutes using either pre-canned information or creating their own visualizations within a governed framework. Basically, if somebody knows how to click a mouse, then they'll be able to get meaningful information out of Sense within minutes. The definitions of business logic and permissions to access information are centrally managed and governed within an enterprise framework, and it can be deployed to users or groups of users at any level of granularity. Sense also seamlessly integrates into web technologies such as SharePoint and other content management systems, allowing interactive information, so not just a flat view, but actually information that you can work with and query to be embedded into web-based portals and applications. So we're going to start today with a quick look at the Hub, which is the browser-based web portal from which you access Sense, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, my session's timed out while I've been preparing. So you open the Hub, which I mentioned there is a web-based portal, and you see a number of streams. So the streams that you can access is controlled by your security access. So we can make different streams available to different people or groups of people, and thereby to some element control the access. Within each individual application, we can also control what data people can see, but we're not going to go into any more detail than that with that today. So to open an application, you just click on the application. I'll click on one of the icons. We've got a few demo applications here, so I'm going to be working with the Genius with Sense today. So Genius with Sense. So as I say, I'm going to look at 3 scenarios, 3 use cases within our retail organisation. So the 3 use cases we're going to look at are a commercial manager who is responsible for the commercial well-being of a company. We're going to look at an inventory planner, and finally somebody field-based who's a category manager. Before we get too deep though into the commercial manager, I'd just like to look at some of the basics of Qlik Sense so that we can understand what's going on here. So Sense works by creating an associative data model. So it pulls together your data, builds associations between whether it be people, places, times, events. It builds those relationships, and it differs from other tools in that it allows you to view information that is not related to your query, as well as information that is. So probably the easiest way to demonstrate that is by looking at the 3 colours with which Sense applies that logic. So it uses the concept of green, white and grey. Green is an active selection I've made, so I've selected years 2015 and 16 here. So the 3 colours, the green, white and grey. The white tells me that there is associated data with the selections I've made, and grey tells me that there is no associated data. So we can see there April in 2015 and 16 is associated with April overall, the other months are not. So what that allows us to do is navigate through our data and see information that wouldn't naturally be shown in a top-down BI solution, and allows us to take pathways that we wouldn't be able to take through our data without that facility. So to go back to our commercial manager, so the requirements that we've defined for our commercial manager is he needs to be able to see sales trends, be able to compare sales trends between regions and branches within the organisation, potentially form some what-if analysis on revenue and margin, but also be able to present that information to his board. So to look at how that person might achieve that with this information here, let's have a look at the trends first. So what we can actually see here is a histogram showing revenue over time, so the bars indicate the overall revenue level. We've got a circular indicator showing us what the cost is within that, so we can track the cost and the revenue alongside each other. And then the colour of the bar is also showing us the margin, going from a very healthy 49% up to 53.5%. So actually we're seeing quite a lot of information straight away within that data. We can see we've got even sales were down and margin was very much down within that period, November 2015. Other information that we can see here, we can see a breakdown of revenue by this tree map, which shows us a breakdown by the product groups that we're selling into. The size of the box there telling us the overall proportion of the overall revenue, and then the colour of the background giving us additional information as well. So we get 2 bits of information in one here and showing us the margin within that group. So we can start to get that breakdown. We've got some KPIs across the top, and these constantly update regarding with what we've selected, and we can see that in action just now. So I want to see some trends changing and be able to identify any problem areas in the business. So I've got some spark lines showing month-on-month sales within each product group, and from looking at this I've started to identify a trend within desserts where it seems to be dropping off here. So I'm going to select desserts within my chart here, and I can see all my other elements on the screen updated. So in fact, instead of now looking at a product group level, I'm looking at all the products within that desserts range. So this data was just completely randomly built online, so that's why don't worry too much about the names. But we can see a trend here and see that although margin has been increasing nicely, and we can see the colour of the bar has been getting hotter and hotter, showing increasing margin, actually the overall revenue has been dropping. So we might have identified a problem there. So actually, if we wanted to go and investigate what has driven that issue, we can then start to drill into that information. And I could just use a lasso just to say that those are the months I'm interested in. And we can see everything is updated across that. So overall, the margin is healthy, but the revenue has been dropping. So at that stage, I might want to go and look at some of the detail behind that. So I've got many different layouts of the information. I've got a drop down at the top that allows me to move between the different screens to get different levels of information and have it presented to me in different ways. I'm going to use this ad hoc view that allows me to kind of build and filter reports with a little bit of configuration myself here. I can see here I've got the information, I've got it down at the lowest level here. I've got per product. I can see that information, but it's actually possibly a little bit too detailed at this stage, and I can't actually gain much insight from that. So just bear with me, please. The screen has stopped responding. So apologies for this, everyone. It's actually just stopped responding to me there. So I'm just going to close that program and restart it. So yeah, so we're working with the Whatif Sense application here. So in our scenario, we've identified deserts have been down trading over the last quarter, and we'd like to go in and dig a little more detail around that. So I've selected desserts. I've then selected the last few months so that I can focus my selections on that, and then I want to drill down into that information in my ad hoc chart here. So I can actually see I've got a bit of a trend going on this line here, telling me that if I select ROI, I can see that that is that line. So maybe that's the one that I wish to drill into there. I can then change my detail chart and start to see that information. Again, it's probably, even though I can expand that and look at the full level of information within there, it's probably a little bit too detailed at this stage, and I need to focus my attention. And I can do that. Actually, I could say I'm interested. I'm interested not in region at this stage, but actually I'd like to look at that by product. So we can actually change the way that the graph's formatted here and say I'm actually going to start looking at the products here, and actually I only want the ones that make up the top half of the revenue. So actually I drew that incorrectly, but so we could say I'm interested in these and tell me why these are not performing, and then we add that information down here, and we can go and speak to the category sales specialist and work out what is driving that scenario. So there I've moved down from having a look at the very top level of information, been able to work through my application and see the actual detail that is driving that. So in the second part of his role, this person's role, might be able to compare sales between regions and branches. So if I look at our network in the geographical analysis tab, we can see that we've got branches split across the UK and Ireland. So the size of the blob is telling us the overall revenue within that, and the shade of the blob is telling us the margin within that. So again, you get two pieces of information in one there. It's all about being able to impart that information with as little effort as possible. So one of the challenges that we have with this network is that we have sales in multiple currencies. So if I want to compare my regions against each other, I'm going to have the problem that all my ROI sales are in euros and all my UK sales are in GBP. So actually I've built a report here that allows me then to having started viewing my revenue in the base currency of the outlet, I can then use an object here to change that so that everybody is showing in GBP. So actually, if we just change this to branch so that some of these names are recognizable, so we can recognize that some of these values here, Adair, Ballivor, they would be Republic of Ireland branches. So we can see if we change between GBP and Euro, we see their values go up. So actually, how that's working is we're extracting a currency table each day and appending that to the sales data. So there's nothing particularly unique about that. I'm sure there's many organisations are doing that out there. But what we have extra here that Qlik Sense is bringing is a feature called Data Market. So a lot of commercial organisations will have a subscription with some financial institution where they can download their currency exchanges each day and bring that information into their reporting. But that requires somebody to maintain that. You know, there'll be some formatting issues. It could come out in any format that you'd need to rework each time, and basically it just becomes a hassle, and it's somebody's job to maintain that. So what Qlik have done is allow us to tap into a data market of information. And we can tap into that information actually without any scripting knowledge. So I've just opened Sense here. I'm going to add some data in. You see here on the left hand side I've got a whole bunch of wizards about different data sources that I can interact with, and again most of those can be worked to a large extent script free, but the Qlik Data Market is available here. There's various levels. You can operate this for free, and depending on the level of information you want and the level of detail, it does move up to a subscription model. But certainly there's good information in there for free. So I can go in. I came in. I grabbed the currency exchange rates here. You can see I'm not coding anything. I'm just going to say here I want to get my 3x3 currency table. So exchange rates between all three of these currencies. I'm going to get all the quote currencies, and I can choose either just to get the most recent, or I can get the whole of history, and then I can pull that information in. So as you see, my application is going to be set to refresh anyway, so I can now build this facility into my script. I don't need somebody to go and log into a website. I don't need to reformat any data, so it's ready to be consumed by Sense. It's just in there, ready to go, and I can see that's the information that I've been able to pull down there. Obviously, you know, depending on the reports you're working with, it may need a little bit of additional fettling to fit your report, but you know, it's very straightforward then to be able to see this information and be able to convert your currencies. And we can see there the bit of a track over time of how the euro has changed against GBP. So looks like we're certainly well down off the peak of what it was a few months ago. Okay, so one of the other tasks that the commercial manager would have to face is assessing the impact of price changes and cost changes on the overall margin of the company. So we've built a bit of a Whatif report here that allows us to look into some of those possibilities. So you see we've built three sliders, one for quantity, price, cost, and we can interact with each of these sliders to assess what that means to the overall revenue. In the KPIs across the top as well, we've got the full range of the expressions that we're interested in with the what if next to it, so we can see how that changes. So in a scenario potentially we're not performing in the market, we need to do a 5% price drop. So we can say we can do that, but actually we think if we do that we might be able to sell an extra 3%, but the supplier is going to hit us with a 1% cost increase. So we can now see what the margin is without those changes, what the margin will be overall, and what the change to the bottom line will be. So again, some features that were very difficult to achieve in early versions of Sense, but they certainly raised the game, and we're seeing much more powerful things available within later releases. Okay, so another requirement that the commercial manager may be required to do is to present this information to the board. So obviously that would historically mean long evenings setting up PowerPoints, exporting bitmaps of old reports and pulling them together to add your own commentary. But in Sense, actually, there's a feature stories where we can put together that information and add our own commentary. So here's one I just prepared earlier. So for the charts, I've made my selections within the application. I right-click to take a snapshot, and then I can just use that within the report. And the text, I can just add my own commentary. So as we go through, we can see some nice extensions here showing how the network's performing. And again, we can go and just add our own commentary into that alongside, so we can bring life to it. So a lot of times when we're looking at these flat reports, they generate additional questions, and people then want to know the second level of information that sits behind that. With stories, we can now incorporate that in that we have live information within our report. So what I've done here is I've just embedded that ad hoc page into the report, and we can actually now work on this and say, well, okay, so tell me how bread has been performing within the various regions, and we can see everything updates on the screen to reflect that. And we can work with these, but we're still within the framework of our story that we configured. So you can see there's great power there. They're very, very easy to put together. As I mentioned, you just snapshot, and then we can just build our report very, very quickly. And then add our own commentary as well to fit the message that we wish to portray with that information. So once we've created those as well, we can actually export those. Export it as a PowerPoint. We can export it as a PDF, or if you're finished, obviously we can delete it, etc. So there's a number of different things we can do there. It's very, very easy to put together a very professional looking report here, and you'll see from a couple of the pages that we saw previously, it retains that clean look that is part of the whole Qlik Sense setup, really. Okay, so that's the commercial manager kind of scenario dealt with. So the next scenario I'd like to have a look at is a planner who's responsible for getting stock into the branches in the right time and making sure that stock levels are maintained. So in this scenario, our inventory planner has been looking at the 5-day forecast on the BBC and has seen that it's predicted to be a scorcher this weekend. Wants to know how they can leverage that information to maximise sales potential. So again, from the data market there, we pulled down some information regarding weather. So if I just very briefly, I'm not going to go through the whole process again, but just to kind of just to show you the other information that is available in there. So in the Essentials package, we've got a wider range of currencies. We've got demographic information, so populations, society indicators of wealth, etc., economy and weather, and then it just goes on and on. So I'd encourage everyone just to have a look in there. It's very, very easy. So we've pulled off some weather information for the last few years, and then built a report here that shows how weather has changed over the period we're looking at. So it's just taking a little while to calculate because there's several years worth of data within there for each of the branches. What we can see on the geographical map is the average temperature within each location. Obviously, poor northerners get it much colder up there. When we can see the seasonal changes as a chart and see how that weather's changing. Very difficult to know if we can predict global warming out of that. I think we might need a trend line. But yeah, we've certainly got daily information and we can see the hotspots in there. So I'm only interested in 2015 and 16 data actually, so I wanted to just make a selection on 2015-16 here. And the weather forecast that our planner has been looking at has predicted it's going to be 25 degrees this weekend. So they want to know what's more likely to sell well above its usual selling range than other products. So actually what we can do is we can go into our report here and say get me all the days where it was higher than 20 degrees average, and select those. And then in our graph at the bottom here we've got a blue line saying what the average daily sales were for each product range based on those sales, based on those selected days, and then a comparison to show what it is against the average of all weather types. And we can straight away see that barbecue has seen a huge uplift. So that's an opportunity for our planner to put an order in to the distribution centre and move some additional barbecue products into the stores. We can then drill down as well into that. So this is right down at the detail level. We can drill down and see which products within the barbecue range have particularly seen an upturn here. And actually, if we go back to our Geo tab as well, it may not be that every store reacts the same way to the good weather. It could be other. You know, the further north you go, the less reaction there is because it's a countrywide average of temperature here. So we can then start to use additional graphs within here to say, actually, you know, bigger upturn is in the south, so we won't flood every store equally. We're going to be more intelligent than that. Okay, so again, very easy to get that temperature information out, and once the script is done, it's done. You know, and there's no need to reformat that data each time. It's just updated daily. Qlik are keeping that information up to date on a daily basis. So another role that our planner has is that they want to be able to create their own reports and share those reports with a wider audience. So actually I'm just going to move to the web-based view here. So this is just a duplication of the app that's been published to our demo site here. So I'm just going to use this one as it feeds into a demo about sharing content a little bit later on. So our planner is going to create a new temp-based report, or we'll call it weather indicator. So we create a new weather indicator revenue report and go and edit that. So again, these kind of these options, the possibility to go and create new reports like this, it can all be controlled centrally, and we can allow people to do this or prevent people from doing this depending on how we want to manage that. But for the purposes of this, we decided our planner should be able to create reports here. So we're just going to put together a report that sees exactly how much the revenue proportion is generated in each of the temperature ranges by products group. So you can see here it's largely drag and drop to put these things together. So you know, I've dragged in a chart there. I can drag in dimensions from my list of dimensions here. I can drag in some pre-canned visualizations. I'm actually going to add in a dimension that I probably should have set up as a master dimension, but I didn't anyway, so you'll have to watch me type it. But so what this is doing is obviously we've got every every temperature to a 1/10 of a degree here. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see every single 1/10 of a degree shown on my chart. I just want to group together into 5-degree slots. So I could create my dimension there, but actually I'm going to add a measure that's been predefined. So what we would normally suggest is that when we're allowing user-generated content, that we define all the measures and expressions as the master library, and then people can just pull these into the report as they need them. So I'm going to add that column. You see, the benefit of that obviously being that you can control the definition for that expression centrally, and everybody is using the same definition for that expression. Okay, so we also wanted the item group in here. So again, it's drop that in the wrong place. So we see the item group. So put together, just need to sort the temp range there alphabetically. We want to do item group as the first sort. So our planner here has now put together a report that that shows each revenue as how much revenue has been sold on days where the temperature range was within the range defined there by that temp range definition. So additionally, we might want to be able to see what proportion of the overall that is as well. So again, apologies, I probably should have set this up as a master dimension, but and you see here it's that the wizard is seeing my partially completed expression and showing me all the possible options, and I can then select from that drop down. So again, it doesn't take a great deal of scripting knowledge to be able to put one of these charts together. Okay, so it says it's an error, but I can't see an error. Okay, so there is an error. Should we set that up? Oh, that's fine. So what we can then see is what percentage of the overall sales of each product group is sold within each temperature range. So again, it's largely drag and drop, but then allowing us to just add a little bit more complexity to our charts as well. So that's fine. It's put together a chart. We might want to be able to see that as a bar chart as well, see how that breaks down. Very, very straightforward for someone to be able to do that. We can just copy that report. We can just paste it next to it. Obviously, initially it starts off as the same kind of chart, but we've got facilities to change between chart types. We can just drag the bar chart on top, and it offers us an option to replace with a bar chart, which throws away what's already there and starts again with a bar chart. But we can convert the existing bar chart, the existing table chart there into a bar chart. So you can see we've come up with a grouped histogram here. I'd actually prefer to see this stacked, so I'm just going to change the presentation to a stacked bar chart, and then we can then see what proportion of each products group's revenue is generated within each temperature range. So If we now look at the overview of the application, we can see we've got the base sheet. So these are the ones that are centrally created and managed, and we've got my sheets down here. So I've created this new report as a planner. But actually, I think there's some value in that, and I'd like to share that with some of my colleagues. So actually, I can publish that report. And what that does then is, in my screen it shows as published by me, but in everybody else's screen it doesn't appear up here in the base sheets. It appears in a separate section further down that shows as community content. So just for our final scenario, I just want to very quickly demonstrate the third use case there, which is a field-based sales operative. So I've got my iPad here. So I'm just going to quickly so just checking that's working. So we can just log in there. So just proving here that that this does work absolutely, equally well on any device. So I haven't actually saved that on there, but if I come back to my iPad here and look at my application, we can see in the overview now that we've got a new screen, a new facility at the bottom, community. So my weather report indicator, and I can just open that. So very quickly I've been able to put together a chart in the office and share that with somebody who's out in the field using an iPad. So they may wish to, so our field-based category specialist, they might be out with a supplier, somebody who's in the bread area, for example. And want to put together a report that shows all the bread sales per branch. Sorry, I'm not trying to edit this. So in this scenario, we want to be able to show our supplier all the bread sales by branch. So we can bring in the item name. We can filter the item group, select bread. And actually, just to demonstrate that that this is fully responsive, so just by turning the iPad here, we can see that the screen updates automatically. So I've just pressed and held there to bring up an additional menu, and I can make that the full screen thing now. So as I say there, we're trying to put together a report for our supplier to show sales by branch maybe. But actually, the scenario here, we work out that this is the revenue report, and we don't want to show revenue, we want to show spend with supplier, so actually we want the cost here. So we look at this and work out that it's not going to give us what we need. So even with an iPad, from here I can say I'm actually going to create my own report here. And go and edit this, so we can then go and edit our new report. We can just bring in a very quick, I'll do a bar chart just because it's pretty quick to do, and show by city and add in our COGS, and maybe want to make that a horizontal chart there. So we can see this is the overall spend then. It's taken me 15 seconds there to put together a report that we can then share with the supplier. So we can still export this. So we can export data either as a CSV here or as a PDF. Again, those features can be controlled centrally as to who you permit to do that. But in this scenario, we're going to say that we will let our sales rep do that and share that information. Okay, so hopefully I've piqued your interest enough to start to wonder about how you can get to use this in your organisation. So in terms of deployment, there are a few different options. The desktop application that I was using originally here, so this desktop application, you can download this for free from the Qlik website. It's fully featured. The only limitation is obviously then that it's not server based. You can't share this information with the rest of your organisation. Qlik offer a cloud-based solution. So if we just look here, so if you go to QlikCloud.com, we can see that if you log in using your single sign-on Qlik account, you get access to the Qlik Sense cloud. So this again is free, it's fully featured, and it allows you to share applications with up to 5 other people. So there are some limitations around this, in that it won't read data from your, sources or systems. You have to upload your data into the cloud, and then it can use that data. It is, as I say, limited to 5 people. That's for the free version. They are offering, they are starting to turn this into a subscription model where you can increase the numbers of that, and anybody who's interested in that, they can come and talk to us about that and we can get some more details. And there are 1 or 2 other limitations around it being in the cloud as well, in terms of stories and publications, etc. So, sorry, I've run a little bit over where we originally planned to be, but those are the deployment options. So we'll just have a quick Q&A if anybody has any questions that Jason hasn't been able to answer. So let me just bring the chat up there. So Jason, were there any questions that anyone had that would like to tackle? Okay, so I understand that hopefully you've been able to get a bit of an insight as to how things have moved on there within Sense, and the things that we're able to do with it now. It really has moved on a pace in the last 6 to 12 months, and it's becoming a viable option for enterprise. If you do have any questions that you'd like to bring up after this, then my contact details are on the screen there. And I would also like to point you to our previous Genius with Imprinting seminar run by my colleague Rachel, talking about a lot of the good things that can be achieved with that. So I'd like to thank you all for your time today, and hopefully we'll be able to engage with you again soon with some of the other great things we can do with the Qlik platform. Okay, thank you.